Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a very special edition of Tex Messages. It's May 18th, 2018. Pretty easy way to remember the date when it's just like the same as, or pretty easy to remember the day when it's just like the same as the number. So that's pretty handy. But, yeah, normally on this Friday, well, the producers called me in for an emergency broadcast, ladies and gentlemen. Normally on a Friday, I'd probably be at the Princeton Speedway, but unfortunately, they only have sprint cars today and some other worthless classes. So it just didn't really seem worth it to go. And, in all honesty, I probably have a lot better things to do. As far as what they are, I don't really know, but we'll just assume that there's better things to do, ladies and gentlemen. So, now one of the things we're going to talk about today is buying and selling parachutes. No, I'm just kidding. Buying and selling car parts. Now, in previous episodes, actually, we should probably talk about chickens and things of that nature due to the background here. Now, this isn't a green screen, ladies and gentlemen. These are real hens. They got the noise, the beak, the feathers, the crap, the buckets here for laying eggs and all that good fun stuff. So you can pretty much be rest assured these are the real deal, ladies and gentlemen. So these hens have been around here for probably since maybe, I'll just say a year, maybe slightly rounded up from about 7 months or so. But that doesn't need to be specific, ladies and gentlemen. We'll just approximate here. Yeah, they're all laying hens and all that, which basically means they lay eggs. Now there's two kinds of hens. There's meat. Actually, there's a lot of different kinds of hens, but for chickens, there's meat hens and laying hens, or maybe not. Well, as far as hens go, there's only laying hens. Hens can be both meat hens and laying hens, and just regular chickens, roosters, male and female, can be meat hens as well. But you're not going to find a laying male chicken. Is basically the gist of the story there, ladies and gentlemen. Now, yeah, you might have seen in the news the first male gives birth and all that junk, but that's just transgender. Identifies as male or whatever the case, or female or whatever the case. It identified as a male, but in all reality, it identified as a female, but it's a male, I guess. It was born a male and all that goofy stuff. But obviously these animals identify as females because they lay eggs and they have common sense. That's probably the biggest common sense. If you got common sense, you can figure out a lot of things in life, ladies and gentlemen. Which is why we advocate for pro-common sense, pro-liberty, pro-life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness and all that. It's just a good creed to follow and all that stuff. So that's what we follow on this broadcast. Now, chicken. Basically the foundation of America was founded upon food, good source of food. Local, organic, pasture, cage-free, raised on flies and worms and all that. Which is basically what chickens are. See, back in the good old days, but back when America was great, prior to it being great again. Because it's going to be great again, it's just a matter of, it is probably just a question of time when it's great again, ladies and gentlemen. And, well, back when it was great the first time around, which is, might have been around the robber baron days, but for the most part it was probably maybe early 1900s. It was probably like 1940s to, that was basic, right after World War II. All of the resources in the world were basically getting channeled in the USA, and it had a lot of manufacturing, and most other countries are just in complete disarray. So that's why the U.S. The world currency was pegged to the dollar, and the Federal Reserve was around in the early, probably 1913 is when the Federal Reserve Act was put into practice. So the U.S. can basically just print money and spend it wherever they want. And since the entire world is beholden to the U.S. currency, then they pretty much have to follow the U.S. currency, which is why America is so wealthy, because everybody has to use their money. Like the petrodollar, Iraq and Saudi Arabia and all that, they use the dollar. A lot of the countries that dictators mysteriously get killed, those are usually the ones that were trying to get off the petrodollar or trying to, conspire with other countries and create different forms of currency to buy oil with. So oil is probably the biggest driver of the industrial society. When the population really exploded, it was because of the oil supplies and the discovery of oil, and just maybe not unlimited energy, but lots of energy. So that obviously helped to allow more people to exist in the world, because you could have tractors in fields and they could plow fields all day instead of just had a bunch of random people plowing fields with their hands, which, it'd be a pain in the ass for the people, and it would take a really long time. So it really wasn't desirable as far as wide-scale production. So just, most people nowadays, probably 99% of them, don't grow their own food. And nobody really has to in today's day and age, but a lot of the food is just now artificial, full of synthetic fertilizers, pesticides, and herbicides. So probably a good idea to grow your own food or raise your own food too. Now, unfortunately, a lot of city ordinances don't allow hens or chickens or basically any useful animal. It's considered a quote farm animal. Dogs and cats and all these worthless animals are allowed, but animals that actually do serve a symbiotic purpose are labeled as farm animals and basically treated as pieces of garbage, so you can't have them inside your own residence. But the reality of the nature is, ladies and gentlemen, right now as I'm speaking, the nutrition that these animals provide is coursing through my veins right now. And, obviously, maybe relative to the population, I'm probably not a very healthy person, but compared to what I was prior to local hen eggs coursing through my veins, I think there's definitely a significant improvement, ladies and gentlemen. And, chicken eggs, they only amount to about 200 calories per day, which is anywhere from 1/20th to 1/15th what I eat on any given day. So yeah, there's still a huge abundance of food that comes from other sources. Tree nuts, meat, and all the meat comes from some organic farmer that we buy hundreds of pounds at one time and just stick it all in the freezer. But the other junk too, like vegetables, trying to grow that, but it's not really raining, which kind of sucks. Hopefully, there's a 40% chance of raining, so hopefully that happens, ladies and gentlemen. What I noticed the other day is I had this laundry tub, and on the end of the faucet, it has a hookup for a garden hose. So I just went ahead and I used that to water the garden the last couple of days, and then put some potting soil, because when you plant inside clay, you got the regular plant that has the dirt that comes with it, and then you put it inside the soil. So when you water it, the clay soil kind of separates from the planter soil. So then I added some potting soil to fill in the gaps there, and hopefully the nutrients from that will filter or course into the ground and then allow the plants to be great again. So, but it's the most critical time when you need to water plants is right when you put them into the ground, because the roots aren't yet established and they're very shallow roots. when they've been around for longer, when the roots have been around for longer, then they will they can get water from deeper sources. But when they're just very shallow and it doesn't rain, like if you put plants in the ground and it does not rain for 3 days, it's a good chance they'll probably become deceased. So you definitely want to be able to do that, unless you got really good nutrient-rich soil and all that good fun stuff. But if not, you definitely need to water them. And I kind of ran out of rainwater, so I had to use the garbage well water. The adulterated, the water without nutrients and all that nonsense. But you got to do what you got to do. And I didn't even notice this, or I didn't even know this, but apparently garden hoses, I just assumed they were all the types of hoses that did not kink. But yeah, apparently they still are selling ones that kink, so I guess that works. But now one moment here. Yeah, excuse that delay. There's some wasp flying around and it's kicking up a bunch of dust because on the light up there, it gets pretty dusty in here. See, what chickens do is they'll take dust baths to clean up all the parasites and bugs and stuff. Instead of taking water baths like humans do, they just take dirt baths. So apparently that makes them great again, but it kicks up a lot of dust, so basically dust gets everywhere. And just walking in here, there's probably going to be a lot of dust, so. But I mean, that's the sacrifice that we take to bring good text messages at a high level. They like sleeping on perches too. Now, as you can see, there is a pecking order on this. Apparently, gold is supposed to be higher on the pecking order than brown, so it's weird why brown is on that perch, but because that perch seems higher up than this one. But whatever works, I guess. And another thing too, it's brown hen, gold, and speckle hen. If you give hens people names, it's just weird. Like for example, if I was to call this hen Enrico, and then you say, hey, look at Enrico, he's rolling around in the dirt and laughing and smiling. If there happens to be somebody named Enrico in the vicinity, they're going to get very confused and maybe even agitated. And they might get aggressive too. But if you just say, hey, check out brown hen rolling around in the dirt, kicking dirt around and making funny noises, you're going to know right away that you're referring to a chicken. So there is that to consider if you want a name. I mean, yeah, your kids will probably want to give them funny names, and you may as well let them. But as an adult, somebody who can think logically, it's a good idea to just call them by descriptors rather than nomenclature, human names and all that stuff too. Oh yeah, animals, they get funny names. A dog might be Fido or Bowser or something cool like that. And you're not going to find too many humans named Fido or Bowser. There's probably going to be a couple, and I'm sure their parents are probably pretty cool and proud and all that. But there isn't going to be too many of them. And there might be a couple, 13. If you went on Facebook right now and looked up somebody named Fido, that's actually a real person, probably not going to be too many. Bowser is likely a little bit more prevalent, but Fido definitely not. And we had a cat a long time ago. The place that we got it from had a different name for it, but we just converted it to Fightin'. And figured Fightin' was an appropriate name for a cat. I mean, it's not like the cat just went around and fighted people. It was just a funny name to have, Fightin'. And, we've had other cats too, but I don't remember what their names were. As far as the hamsters, I mean, they just had all silly names. Stubby, Spike, Pinky, Punky. That was about it, I guess. Yeah, once they got totally out of control, that they didn't have too many names. But yeah, I mean, good idea to name hens descriptors rather than human names. See, it's really hard to name a human a descriptor. I mean, you could make reference to their hair color, their eye color, their tongue color, maybe their facial expressions and all that stuff. You know, there is something to be said though for names. I mean, there are some names where you wonder what parents are thinking. And you know, on Family Guy once, Pete Griffin found out his real name was Justin, so then he changed his entire lifestyle because typically somebody with the name of Justin would not indulge in his lifestyle. So just based on that, you know, I guess names are, you know, maybe people fill their names. You know, like Rick. It's I don't really know what a Rick is supposed to do, but you know, like a Wayne or a Scott or Jeff or Bill or Bob. You know, those are just names of pretty cool people. So like Rick, I mean Rick, I'm not trying to sound arrogant, but Rick usually is a name of a cool person. Now that's not to try to claim that I'm a cool person, but more times than not, Rick is definitely a descriptor for a person that likes to have a good time. So so that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we don't have any music, obviously, and I might just edit the video. Actually, we're probably gonna, well, you know, I'll just take a break and then we'll just cut out and, yeah, that's probably what we'll do. Maybe play that Monty Python intermission music. Because, I mean, I'm not going to sit here for an hour straight, ladies and gentlemen. Do about 20 minutes, take a breather, and come back for another 20. Take a breather, and then come back for another 20. So it's pretty simple stuff. But we're going to have a show in the future called Good Times, Balls Deep. The host of the show is, you know, he's doing a lot of sponsor deals lately. He's getting a lot of funding for the show. He's just getting ready to make it great again. That's his whole objective. And, you know, I'm very confident that he'll do that as well. And I'm just very pumped up for the show, too. You know, he's going to make St. Cloud great again. Probably America great. Probably even maybe the Milky Way great again. Or Solar's Comet great again. I mean, if there's life on Mars, he'll make life for them great again. I'm sure Pluto will be reclassified as a planet, and that'll be great again. Some weird planet that the Kepler Doppler telescope sees will have life on it. He'll make that planet great again. Planet X will come within Earth's orbit, and he'll make that planet great again. Some aliens will come across the SpaceX spaceship with the Tesla Roadster in it, and he'll make them great again. And so, you know, some aliens will probably land on Earth, and he'll make them great again. So, I mean, that's what Good Times Balls Deep is all about. Just making anything and anyone great again. And any city and town and state and country and planet great again. And, you know, stars and asteroids, meteorites. If there's any other space rock or even space debris, like some random satellites that get blown up, he'll make them great again, too. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to step outside here where it's not 80 degrees. As you can see, when the chickens open their mouth like that, that means they're pretty damn hot in a temperature sense. So, you know, it is a little on the hot side in here, ladies and gentlemen, so I'm going to step out for a brief moment and be back in maybe a couple minutes. But yeah, you're listening to Tex Messages. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Tex Messages. We're broadcasting out of Elk River, Minnesota. It's May 18th, 2018. A little dark outside, so we got an LED light on. It's kind of windy too. Hopefully it doesn't blow around a bunch of dirt. That would kind of suck, but anyways, yeah, apparently there's about a 50% chance of rain this evening, which would be great for the plants and just for nature in general. But that being said, yeah, I noticed the audio quality from the first segment wasn't very good. And I'll be 100% honest with you, ladies and gentlemen. Based on, the ratings are pretty much in the toilet, so there's really, I don't even know why film, or what even the point of putting it to YouTube is. But it's probably just to establish a habit. Because, I mean, it is a nice repository to have things saved there rather than just saving it on my hard drive. Yeah, I do have it backed up on the hard drive, but it would be nice just to, have some of it on, or all of it on YouTube. Yeah, I mean, when they finally ban it and delete it and everything, then it's missing, but yeah, it's probably not really that important. Back in the late 90s, one of my close personal friends and I, there's a program called Windows 3D Movie Maker. Now it took you a while to make movies. Like you would make a couple minute long movie and that might take you an hour. And we got really into it. We were making movies and laughing and smiling and just having a good time. We even got other people involved with some of the sound dubbing and everything. So yeah, I mean, everyone was just laughing and smiling. But, yeah, for some reason the computer got reformatted because in the early days of computing, it wasn't uncommon for the computer to just freeze and then you'd have to restart it. It was a total pain in the ass, but that's how computers were back in the good old days. They would freeze up, kind of move the mouse around, and you knew you were screwed. So that's why when you had Microsoft Word, you always had to save the garbage. Otherwise you might lose a bunch of stuff. Now it doesn't, I've had a desktop, with a terabyte hard drive for probably about 6 years. I don't think that thing has ever had to get shut down for no reason whatsoever. It was just sounds like there might be a lot of noise coming from outside. Alright, that's probably a little bit better, ladies and gentlemen. So, computers probably made past 2010, they don't really freeze or you don't really have to shut them down for no apparent reason whatsoever. But when you had computers back in the late 90s, early 2000s, they would just freeze up randomly and then you'd have to shut them down. And unfortunately, you would lose some very valuable information. My close personal friend and I we made a bunch of movies on 3D Movie Maker. One of the movies was over an hour long, and we put a lot of time in because he would make a few scenes, I would make a few scenes, he would make a few, I would make a few, and we'd have a couple other friends dub their voices on, and they didn't really edit anything, not due to lack of skill, but just because when they come over, they wouldn't hang out for hours on end like we would. So, we'd just be like, yeah, you should say this and stuff so we can put it on the video, and they seemed to be receptive to that idea. So we just went ahead and we did that, ladies and gentlemen. And then, for some reason, the computer, for a good reason, I'm not questioning that, the computer was reformatted and then we lost a lot of those movies. So, I mean, nowadays, it's not as big of a deal to have backup. I mean, in its infancy, even USB thumb drives were unreliable. I had somebody I know that said they had a bunch of pictures of their kids and whatnot, and those all got erased or deleted or corrupted. So, and it was on a thumb drive, USB flash drive. So that was a tragedy of epic proportions from his prerogative. But yeah, fortunately, we have pretty reliable electronic systems, computing systems now, which is great. It's definitely going to help in making America great again. But yeah, as far as recording text messages, I mean, it's not really a big. If I lost all the first episodes, in fact, it'd probably be better, because then I would forget what I talked about and probably nobody watched the show anyway, so then I could just keep recycling topics and ironing out sound and audio issues to finally be able to run a show on 8 cylinders. I mean, now we've got a 3-cylinder engine, we're probably misfiring on about 1 or 2, occasionally hitting on 3, but for the most part, definitely sputtering. So, one second, this door swung wide open. I'm going to have to shut it down. Alright. See, it's one of those doors where you can only latch it from the outside. So, we just kind of close it, hope the wind doesn't grab it, and see what happens. Because it sounds like there's some, ambient noises outside that may impede the quality of this video. I mean, the quality is basically already in the crapper, so certainly don't need to make it any worse. One special note, though, ladies and gentlemen, is that, we're probably the first purchase from one of our sponsors is the tripod that the camera is sitting on right now. So you've probably seen some of the other instructional videos. They weren't very good. They have foreheads cut off, or things wouldn't be in it that should be in it. So with this tripod, we have, I think it's anywhere from like 12 to 60 inches, and it seems pretty sturdy. If a semi runs over it, it's done. But I mean, it's good enough for what it needs to do. And for our regular show, we just use the squat rack and adjust that up and down, which seems to work pretty good. But yeah, for doing mobile shows, the tripod is definitely the way to go. So, I mean, yeah, now it's just a matter of finding some good quality audio equipment. I watched a little bit of the first segment, and it seemed to have some pretty bad audio, like horrendously bad, even bad for our standards. So, I'm just trying to maybe talk more quietly, and hopefully it doesn't sound atrocious, but it probably will. Yeah, I mean, the only thing I lose in recording is just memory, a little bit of memory on a computer. And since nobody watches it anyways, it's not really a big deal, ladies and gentlemen. But with that being said, I think I probably went off on the tangent a little too long there. So, yeah, these chickens, this one lays about 1 egg maybe not every day, but I'd say 5 or 6 days a week. This other one on the lower perch here is probably about the same frequency as this brown one with its eyes closed. And this gold one here, it's about not quite as often. Maybe 4 times a week. But the gold hen, their eggs I measured them once, they're green, and they weigh about 2.6 ounces, and brown hens are about 2.4, and speckled hen is a little under 2 ounces. She's got some pretty small eggs, which is weird because she appears to be larger than these other 2 hens. Speckled hen is probably the largest, then gold, and then brown hen. But yeah, the eggs don't really correlate with their size. Well, kind of, I guess, but so yeah, I don't really know what drives that. Maybe it's just big feathers that make the chicken appear of greater magnitude or of mass than what it actually is. Not really sure. Like, yeah, some small parents have big babies, and the babies don't really grow up to be very large. Like, I was probably about, it's like between 9 and 10 pounds as a baby, and now I'm like 150, so not very much. So it'd be like, say, a brown hen. Brown hen lays some pretty big eggs, but not a very big hen. I mean, she's big enough to get the job done, but these other two hens here are a little bigger, but it doesn't really matter as far as laying hens go. Meat hens, yeah, it is kind of a big deal, but laying hens, no big whoop. And nobody seems to care then. Once laying hens get really old, though, then apparently you might have to butcher them or whatever, but these ones will probably live out their natural life. I mean, they stopped laying between probably October through February. So October, yeah, I mean, it was about 5 months where they took off. Just because it was pretty cold out. Now, a lot of people will suggest a heat lamp. Like, I mean, right now we have a light on in here, and if we had a supplemental source of heat up the place, maybe throw some insulation on these walls, then yeah, they might just lay year round, but at a lower frequency, of course. But I figured I'll just do the whole. Yeah, you could say, oh, in southern climates they lay year round, but I mean, we live in Minnesota here, so we all hunker down for the winter and then just enjoy the rest of the year that much more. Like, I mean, yesterday I probably spent an inordinate amount of time outside, and today, I had to water the plants too, so it's just a great time of the year to be outside, to enjoy it. Now, it did seem like the hot temperatures came pretty fast and furious and are just hitting us hard and relentlessly, but, got to take the bad with the good, ladies and gentlemen. And, just any excuse to be outside is what, Minnesota people look for in the summertime. Yeah, if it's 70 and sunny year-round, then maybe you don't value. Think about it this way. When you overindulge in pleasures, you lose the desire for them, and then bad things just become even worse. It's like a TV screen. One of the rationalizations that I had in not buying a big screen TV is that when you buy a big screen TV, it doesn't really appreciably raise your viewing pleasure. But when you get a smaller one, or when you try to watch a smaller one after you're used to a bigger one, it does deprecate your viewing pleasure. So that's why I figured that it would just be a great idea to just keep a small TV. It takes less energy, and it costs less to buy. Well, I mean, I only watch Star Trek once a week. 6 times a week it's on in Ring of Honor on Saturday night. But I mean, we're with sponsors and Tex Messages and watering plants and everything, closing chicken doors. Makes it a bit of a challenge to watch Star Trek even. But it's totally fine. Star Trek does have some very good messages in the show, though. Like, if you figure out what's going on as far as globalists and genetic engineering and religion and all that, when you watch episodes of Star Trek, it does make subtle references to that. It makes you think a little bit. That's why I always enjoyed the show. I remember back in elementary school, there was this one guy, he was a smarter guy, he did electronics. Apparently he's working as like some Intel engineer now, but he was a pretty smart guy. So he caught on all the Star Trek lingo right away. Like even today, I still don't know a lot of this stuff. Phasers, tachyon rays, warp drive, inverter pulse. I mean, I don't really know what 90% of that junk means. But, for him, he picked up on that back in elementary school. So, he's a pretty smart guy. His parents were smart, encouraged him to be smart. So, yeah, he was a big fan of Star Trek as a result of that. So, it looks like I really don't know how close we are to a break, but I think we're probably getting there pretty soon here. So we're going to have a show in the future called Good Times, Balls Deep. The host of the show is working on getting a new studio and sound and audio equipment. See, he's a little bit more smarter about this than me, because what I did is I just went ahead and I started filming a show with horrendous video and audio and just poor content. And it turned off a lot of the viewers instantly, with viewers that are probably never going to come back. But he knows that to make a show great again, he just has to, go balls deep and hit the ground running. So that's why Good Times Balls Deep will probably be a resounding success. Because, yeah, you would think being associated with this show may be a black eye to it. But in all reality, this show will probably just have a negligible effect. I'm just glad to be able to promote it, basically, and try to encourage and advocate for it. So when it does become ultra successful, maybe he can throw a bone and maybe we can get a dozen viewers to Tex Messages. Yeah, the fortunate part is the sponsors don't really care about viewership or content. They just, I just have obligations to them. As long as I fulfill them, then they're happy and I'm happy, and the chickens are a little happier too, because then they get maybe better quality food. But with that being said, Good Times Balls Deep will be coming in the near future, ladies and gentlemen. I'm gonna step outside and take a little breather here, and I'll be back for the final segment.
Happy, happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Happy, happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock. Happy, happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Happy, happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock.
It's almost time, kids. The clock is ticking. Be in front of your TV sets for the Horathon. And remember the big giveaway at 9. Don't miss it. And don't forget to wear your masks. The clock is ticking. It's almost time.
Happy, happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Happy, happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock. Happy, happy Halloween, Halloween, Halloween. Happy, happy Halloween, Silver Shamrock.
Welcome back to Tex Messages, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the parasite of the show, Rick Tex. Glad to be here broadcasting from Elk River, Minnesota. Now we're inside a chicken coop now. It's about an 8 by 8 foot shed with a cement slab and dirt on the floor. And it's got about 4 barrels with leaves inside of them that the hens can lay eggs in. It's got a perch up here, perch back here, a perch down there. Another thing with chickens is they have a pecking order. So as far as gold or brown, I'm not really sure which one is higher up. Or speckle obviously appears to be on the low end. But yeah, that's how they prefer to sleep. So you generally want to set it up so they don't crap on each other or so they don't crap in water. Normally there's probably a water bowl down here, but just not tonight, I guess. Maybe I'll put it inside, but usually they get let out around 5 a.m. So they're obviously not going to drink water while they're sleeping. That'd be pretty difficult to do. I'm not even sure humans do that, but yeah, I'm sure some people wake up in the middle of the night to drink water, but chickens don't do that because they're probably afraid of getting killed. Whereas if you're a human, you wake up in the middle of the night, you get water, you don't really have to worry about getting killed, hopefully. Unless you got some snipers fixated on your house, but most likely not. I think most of us are probably in the clear as far as that goes, ladies and gentlemen. So, now if you're going to build your own chicken coop, if you're going to use a shed, just make sure it has a very sturdy floor, because animals, that they could get in. Probably the worst thing you can do is, if there's just a dirt floor, then they can just dig in through that, like a fox or a raccoon or a hippopotamus. So that's why you need to have a solid base and a foundation. And this is just a regular shed on a concrete slab. And then the floor it just has a bunch of dirt piled on so the chickens can roll around in it for dirt baths and so that they can scratch on it and cut their claws down. Because if they don't scratch, then their claws just keep getting longer and longer, which is not... It's like humans and their fingernails, they just keep getting longer. There's not really a desirable function of growing nails. Now, it would be nice if your teeth could regrow, but unfortunately that apparently doesn't really happen. Plus, enamel is a lot harder than fingernails and you know, talon nails or whatever, and toenails. So I mean, maybe regular teeth do grow, but just not in an obvious way. Yeah, I mean, otherwise there ain't much to raising chickens. You know, you gotta be up in the morning and open the door and shut it at night. It's pretty simple. Now, you know, you can put up fences, and I try to do that, but they always jump over it, or even worse, they would, you know, get cut up in the fence, and then they would get the staph infection from that, which is not something you want to have. So yeah, you can just inspect their feet here and see if they got infections, or it'll just be a big lump basically. Sort of like, you know, if you're a human, you got a blister or a blood blister, and you know, you just poke it and drain it out. That's basically all you have to. Well, I mean, for a staph infection, yeah, you have to cut open, you know, you have to disinfect it, of course, and then just cut open their talon, and it's like a calcified piece of rock basically. Just yank that out of there and call it good. So, you know, I mean, here it's from the perch to the ground, it's maybe 4 or 5 feet. So they're not going to, you know, they're not going to hit the ground too hard and cut up their feet and stuff. No, the ground is cement, yeah, they probably would, but with the dirt floor here, it's not a huge deal. So, yeah, otherwise they're great animals to have around, legs and all that, follow you around and provide entertainment for the neighborhood. But there's an even more serious issue we need to discuss. There's a thing called robo-bees, which some people are trying to design and engineering bees to pollinate plants, basically. So they have these little drones, miniature drones, and they take pollen from one plant and bring it to the other. It sounds pretty simple, but you know, when you put mechanical beings in the air, you know, it's going to confuse the regular bees. You know, it might even supplant them, and it might even cause a ruckus to their hive. And not only that, when you got a bunch of electronical drones flying through the air, it doesn't really seem like a promising future. Now, yeah, it's fun to engineer stuff and to design things and be electrical and everything, but you know, at some point you got to know where to pull back on the reins. I mean, transportation, designing cars and trucks and vans and SUVs and ships and trains and airplanes is great, but when you try to design things that were designed in nature already, it usually leads to catastrophe. Like genetically engineered foods, they're generally regarded as safe by the FDA, so the onus is on the studies to prove that it's dangerous. I mean, they just assume that it's safe, but you have to prove that it's dangerous. Now, you would think something as serious as the food supply for America would be, it's considered dangerous until proven safe, you know, as far as genetic modification. Now, yeah, I know they got a pretty big public charade, and they got probably a lot stronger marketing campaign than we do at Tex Messages, so you might be thinking, well, I read all these articles that said GMO is perfectly safe and there's no significant difference shown between GMO and, you know, organically grown. But I mean, you know, that's just, you gotta follow the money there, ladies and gentlemen. As when you utilize common sense, it doesn't align with a lot of what you read about those kind of things. So yeah, just exercise good judgment as far as that goes. But I got some dust kicked up in the air there. That's the thing with chicken coop too. It's a good idea to water it down every once. It's like a dirt racing track. If it doesn't get water, then it just kicks up a lot of dust. So it's not a good viewing experience for the fans. Which is maybe why a lot of people prefer tar tracks over dirt tracks, because you don't have to. If the wind is blowing away from the stands, then it's pretty nice. But if it's blowing to the stands, then you got to be a hardcore fan to enjoy it. Like, for example, if I was going to ask somebody if they wanted to go to Granite City Speedway, I'd probably want to check the wind direction first. And if the wind is away from the stands, then yeah, drop the green flag. But if it's towards the stands, then it's probably not a good idea to bring neophytes to the racetrack. So yeah, just keep that in mind. Even for yourself too, if you're kind of on the fence and you check the wind direction. That's the nice thing about Cedar Lake Speedway in New Richmond, Wisconsin. They have stands on both sides, so you can. Oh boy. Yeah, we certainly can't have chickens jumping around now. That would be guaranteed to kick up dust and fumes and probably just make the insanely expensive camera really dirty. And the brand new tripod really dirty too, which we don't really want to do. I mean, hell, maybe I have to film the show in the dark, like the 13th episode. That would be nice to have another 13th episode. That was pretty fun. I did have to watch Halloween 3 like 5 times to try to remember the story. And there's the first story I had to read that. It was a book. There's a chapter in a book that talked about that, so I had to read that about 3 or 4 times. Actually, I read that probably a dozen times. See, I'm just completely making up stuff now. But, yeah, it seems like Brown Hen's getting a little antsy here. I don't really know why. Maybe I should try doing the show in the dark. Alright. When you get darkness here, then it has a relaxing effect. Like if you're going to administer any type of surgery on animals, it's a good idea to put a towel over their head, especially a dark towel. Then they'll be docile and dormant, and it's like a sedative, a natural sedative. If you ever watch those shows where they catch crocodiles, they throw a blanket over their head and the crocodile just settles down. That's the same with chickens too. When you cut off their vision, or not cut their eyes out, but when you put something over their eyes, then they cool off. And they also have these glasses that have a red tint to them. So then it just makes the chickens think bad thoughts, apparently. So yeah, I mean, those are nuggets of wisdom, ladies and gentlemen. And, yeah, I can probably put the light back on here. Seems like they've relaxed a little bit. They look pretty relaxed, but Brown Hen seems a bit more antsy. So, yeah, they basically just sleep here all night, I guess. That's kind of a bad thing about being a prey animal. To them, they try to find their highest spot. Now, any raccoon or fox would come in here and hop up there in a second and tear them limb to limb. So that's why it's important to close the door every single night and to close the window too. Well, the window is generally always closed, but if it gets really hot, then maybe I'll leave it open. But it's too much of a risk to forget it, and an animal could just crawl right into that too. And there are a lot of raccoons and possums out here. I haven't seen any foxes yet, but yeah, I'm guessing they're probably out there somewhere. It's weird because foxes and possums, they're out there every single night, but you just never see them. It's like if you live in a tough neighborhood, at night you just deadlock the doors and go to sleep, and you don't think there's really much crime, but it's out there. And same with like animals, foxes and coyotes and werewolves. They're out there. They're just dormant during the day and up all night, sleep all day. That's their whole motto. And you know, chickens, obviously, it's up all day, sleep all night. As far as where raccoons and things like that sleep at night, it's hard to know for sure. But if you probably wouldn't really want to find out. So maybe it's just better off not knowing. Yeah, I'm sure if you study the habitat of a raccoon or a fox or a giraffe, you could figure out pretty quickly where they decide to sleep and take refuge. You know, like a bear, you know, it'll hibernate all winter and find some den or whatever and make itself great again. I'm just making sure Brownhead doesn't want to jump again. That would be a complete disaster. See, during winter time, they'll all sleep next to each other to stay warm. But obviously, it's 90 degrees out, so don't really want to do that. You know, it'd be like just another source of heat, and maybe get heat stroke or dehydrated or something, and you have to keep your mouth open even wider and your feathers out even further. So right now it's pretty dark outside, ladies and gentlemen, so there might be some predators eyeing up the coop right now. Now obviously, me sitting in here, they're probably not going to do anything. Even though some of these animals, like a coyote, it could probably tear apart a human pretty easily. But the one advantage humans have, you know, if you read any science-based stuff, it'll say the opposable thumbs allowed humans to use weaponry. So you could pick up a stick or a rock and throw it at these animals, whereas animals just got claws and can run fast and climb trees and all that. But humans can pick up weapons, and they can also talk to each other too. That's a big evolutionary trait of the Homo sapien. And that, you know, that's pretty much what we're doing right now. Well, I guess it's only one-way communication. Someday we might do live streams, but for the most part, we'll probably just stick with the show that we got here. I mean, we're only on episode 39 now. The goal is to get to episode 100 by the end of summer. You're going to have to read a lot of research articles. See, I didn't have any research articles ready today. I mean, the producers kind of called me in at the last minute. They wanted to utilize the tripod, and we figured, yeah, let's film out in the chicken coop. But, you know, episode 39 doesn't really have any significance to chickens, so I'm not really quite sure why we... I mean, maybe their age in chicken years is 39, but I don't really even know how old they are, because pretty much all these three showed up when they were fully grown. Now, I tried incubating eggs a couple weeks ago, you know, on a stovetop, but apparently the people I bought it from did not have a rooster. Well, they said they had roosters, but then after I tried to incubate them, I probed them further, and they said that the roosters and the hens are separate, so yeah, it doesn't really do you much good then. Probably should have asked a few more questions up front. That would have saved a little bit of time. Maybe not much. Well, you know what, it really wasn't that hard. You know, you just set on a stovetop, you just set it at its lowest setting and then have some oil in there and keep the lid open enough to where it stays to, you know, between 98 and 100 degrees. So yeah, it really wasn't too difficult. I mean, 3 weeks. After 3 weeks, when there's no eggs, then yeah, you could pretty much put the kibosh on it and say that it's a failed endeavor. But, you know, there's worse things that could happen than that, too, you know. Probably the worst thing that could have happened was to have baby chicks born with defects. But, I mean, when I initiated the process, it seems like a rather innocuous procedure, but in my mind, I was like, okay, whatever comes out, I'm forced to take care of for the rest of its natural life. So if some weird mutant, mentally deficient hen hatched from the egg and it lived for 7 years, I had to take care of it for 7 years. Now, that doesn't mean that, you know, you can always... I suppose you probably could put it up for adoption where, you know, if the city starts hounding you and starts, you know, pulling machine guns on you and stuff like that, then you'd probably then you'd probably have to get rid of, your hens and whatnot. It'd be better than getting hit with a machine gun and stuff. But I mean, there are rules to follow here and there, and some of them don't always make a lot of sense, but yeah, I don't really know what the logic and reasoning is behind a lot of rules, but that's just me. I just try to be a good neighbor, but sometimes it doesn't always work out, I'm sure people get agitated by some of the stuff I do, and I used to get agitated by them, but not so. Now I just don't really care anymore. I mean, barking dogs, loud lawnmowers, loud parties, it doesn't really even seem to matter anymore. Because, see, the thing is, all your problems are internal to you, and the situation and circumstances you put yourself into. I mean, if you live in a house pretty much anywhere, you can almost be guaranteed there's going to be dogs somewhere, and probably barking dogs. And maybe there's loud chickens too that make loud noises after they lay eggs. So those are just things you're going to have to deal with being a citizen of the planet. And it's not a big deal, after a while you kind of get used to that sort of stuff. I mean, a dog owner probably doesn't even know that the dog is barking. I mean, when the chickens make a bunch of noise after they lay eggs, I'll try to go out there and take the egg, and hopefully they'll be quiet, but I mean, I don't really know. See, the hardest thing to come to grips of is that there are significant deviations in thought amongst you and other people. For example, if I hear chickens make noise, it seems hilarious. But I mean, I'm sure other people are probably agitated by it. So I try to take the necessary steps to make sure they don't make any noise. And unfortunately, I'm gone for a large part of the day, so as far as what they're doing at that time, I'm not really sure. If the sheriff comes by with the rocket launcher or the MRAP vehicle, and I'll know that they probably agitated some of the neighbors. And it's not really optional to leave them in the coop all day because it's 80, 90 degrees outside. So with the window in here, and if the doors are closed, probably get you a lot hotter than that. And these feathers are designed to keep them warm when it's 20 degrees below zero Fahrenheit. So if it gets to 90 degrees, it's going to be pretty damn warm in here. So, I mean, for humans it's warm, and we don't even have feathers or fur. So, I mean, for a chicken it's probably unbearable. Well, that being said, ladies and gentlemen, without musical breaks here, we're probably going to cut the show a little short. And it'll probably be that Monty Python intermission music. That's pretty good, top quality audio there. And we're going to have good times, balls deep in the future. Not really sure what his plan is. It sounds like he wants to get guest hosts together, but I mean, it's a little difficult to coordinate that. Like with text messages, yeah, the quality isn't really there, but it's easy to just film it somewhere. If the producers shoot me a call, I can be like, yeah, I'll film it, no problem. So, I mean, that's why we're able to run 4 nights a week and on a consistent basis. Which I'll hopefully continue to do, ladies and gentlemen. I was usually planning on running Saturday and Sunday. So running a show today was a bit of a surprise, but, it seems like it ran okay. Yeah, the quality in the first... Well, actually, no. The quality in the first one was probably just horrible. I don't really know how to filter it out in a movie editor, so... it is what it is. Maybe... I can always go ahead and switch her on, so actually... the segment that was filmed first might occur last. It may be a bit confusing, but, I mean, there's really no sequential ordering. It's just... talking for 20 minutes, or 15, whatever the case is. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're glad to be making America great again, with you by our side. We salute you, the ladies and gentlemen at home. We'll be having good times, balls deep in the future, hopefully the near future. And with the continued sponsorships that we have for Tex Messages, we'll hopefully be able to make the show great again. Thank you very much for watching. I'm Rick Tex, the parasite of the show. And we'll probably be back on Sunday. far as NASCAR goes, looks like it's going to be on those silly FSN, NBC, SNFU channels, so it's probably not going to watch that for maybe the rest of the season. So that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I'm the parasite of the show, Rick Tex. We're glad to have you here